الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يا رب العالمين. أما بعد. So you see on the screen that we're going through, inshallah, we're going to begin going through Surah Zumar. Surah Zumar is a Meccan chapter. You find this beginning in the 23rd juz of the Quran and carrying over into the 24th juz. And so inshallah we'll be scrolling, so you can just, if you want to follow along, the translation will be there, the verses that we'll be covering inshallah. This chapter is Meccan, and like other Meccan chapters, we've covered one before. Does anyone remember which one we covered? Were you able to join us? Beautiful, Umar. Jazakallah khair. Surah Taha, also a Meccan chapter. And so, like the Meccan chapters, this chapter, Surah Zumar, also deals with topics like the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, worshipping Allah alone. This chapter deals a lot with sincerity, ikhlas, and then belief in the hereafter, Jannah, paradise, Jahannam, the hellfire. These types of topics are covered frequently in Meccan chapters. And in the Medinan chapters, we find a lot of rulings, a lot more verses addressing believers. In the Meccan chapters, and it's understandable, the chapters are addressing humanity. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. Because in the early days, the Muslim community had not been established. So the Quran was speaking to everybody. And as the community developed, then the Quran began to speak specifically and give direction specifically to believers. Okay, one small request, if we can just move up inshallah, as people come in, they're able to find space. If there's space in front of you, please come forward inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. So let's begin with verse 1 inshallah. Verse 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. The revelation of this book is from Allah, the Almighty, the All-Wise. And so it's a declaration. This first verse, and let me ask you guys here, because that's kind of how we do things here, right? Imagine you're reading a translation of the Quran. Then this is a translation. And you come across the opening verse of a chapter is, the revelation of this book is from Allah, the Almighty, the All-Wise. Why would Allah start the chapter with this? Yeah.
Make sure you take it seriously.
Make sure you take it seriously. Right. Absolutely. So that you know who said that. Isn't that a common question when someone says something? Hey, did you hear this? And what do we say? Who said it? Who said that? And we should verify who said it. The chapter is about to say many things. Naturally, the question arises in our minds, well, who said that? So Allah begins declaring the revelation of this book, it's from Allah. And then we want to know, what names does He use? Al-Aziz, Al-Hakim, the Almighty, the All-Wise. This is one way to reflect on the Quran, is to read the verse and connect what the verse says to the names at the end of the verse, which are frequently at the end of the verse. So let's do that for a second here. Allah said that the revelation of this book is from Allah. So this book is not from me, not from you. It's not from a philosopher who's doing their best to try to figure out what the truth is. It's not from someone like that. This is from Allah. And from all the names Allah could have chosen, He chose these two. Al-Aziz, Al-Hakim. What do you think that has to do with the revelation of this book being from Allah? Any ideas? Anyone? I'm not asking you to tafsir, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm not doing no tafsir over here. No, just an idea. Yeah. Interesting. He said, to show that the book will be wise, will contain wisdom. The second thing you said was? Okay, the book will match the attributes. That's interesting because Allah didn't say that. Allah did not say this is a wise book. He did not say this is an overpowering almighty book. He said this book comes from Allah. And who is Allah? The Almighty, the All-Wise. Why would you assume that? Why would you assume that the book now will be wise, it'll contain wisdom? Why? Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a trick question. Absolutely. What comes from a wise person would be wisdom. Naturally. In Arabic they say, وَفِعْلُ الْحَكِيمِ لَا يَخْلُو عَنِ الْحِكْمَةِ. The actions of the wise are never void and empty of wisdom. And we're talking about Al-Hakim, Allah. See, a wise person in life here could still make mistakes, right? Still say something kind of foolish, where you kind of look at him and go like, hey, I thought you were smart, like what happened? With Allah, who is not like any creation, when He says something, there will always be wisdom in it. Now, why is that so important? Let's see, even before that, let's look at the first name, Al-Aziz, the Almighty. Why would that be important? And how would that reflect in the book? You know how we said Allah being the All-Wise reflects in that the book will be full of wisdom? How does Allah being Almighty reflect in the book? Yeah.
Well, the name Almighty suggests reverence, so maybe you also want to have reverence for the book.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, that's a different point, but it's very powerful. The idea that Allah is the Almighty. So not only does that say something about the book, but it says something about our attitude towards the book. This is not just any book. We have to approach this with reverence because this is the Almighty that we're engaging with, His book. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So it's now reflecting a certain approach we take to the book itself. Beautiful. Okay? And in terms of how it reflects in the book, anyone want to share any ideas here? Yeah.
Well, I guess it goes back to like the writer, which is Allah. If He is Almighty, then He's capable of creating anything, which means that the book that He's created is of like truth as well.
Okay, it's of truth. Truth relation to Almighty. What's that?
Well, if you're Almighty and you can create anything, then there's harmony in the things that you created. So it just makes sense that the book is the truth in that sense because it would not, like, it would just not make sense otherwise, right? Like,
Okay, no, I like that. Let's think about it this way. If someone's almighty, yes, they have the power to do anything, but they also are able to overpower anyone and everyone because they're the almighty. Even anyone else who claims to be mighty is not the almighty. So in front of the almighty, they will be overpowered. What does that say about the book? The Quran. That the Quran is full of arguments, explanations that are overpowering. Anyone tries to bring an objection, an argument against the Quran coming from Al-Aziz will overpower. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? Yeah, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the Quran, we're often kind of told things that seem beyond belief for us.
Yes.
So, coming from an Almighty, we have faith in the words of the Quran.
Right. Now, I like that. It's beautiful. Because you said that we know, because we might have doubt about something, because it just kind of blows our mind. We're not able to wrap our heads around something in the Quran. So then we're kind of confused almost. But knowing that it comes from the Almighty, it's like, okay, no, it's coming from somewhere that I can trust. But there's a challenge here, which is that if He's all-powerful and He could do anything He wants, what if He does something that arguably could not make sense?
That's where you get the all-wise.
I love it. Al-Hakim. No. Understand that when the verses of Quran don't make sense to me and you, which sometimes they don't. Let's be real about that. Sorry, another request. Can we just move up, inshallah, a little bit? A little bit more, inshallah. On this side as well, inshallah. I'm sorry. Because we're getting people coming in and then we just want to make sure that they have space. No, that's exactly what you said, right? When something doesn't necessarily make sense to us in the Quran, you can get worried. You can get worried. If this doesn't make sense to me, why should I accept it? How do I know? Why would I trust that this is still right, even though I don't understand it, it's because it's coming from Al-Hakim. Not just Al-Aziz, but Al-Hakim. The one who is all-wise. There will be wisdom in it. And sometimes we don't know what that wisdom is. Have you ever dealt with a grandparent who has a solution for something that doesn't make sense to you? Drink this and you'll feel better. You're like, what scientific theory? But you drank it, right? And then you felt better, and you're like, I don't know. I have no idea how to explain this. Can I give you an example? Do you have any optometrists here? Anyone? Optometrist? Okay. You ever like hurt your eye? And then your mother or your grandmother will come, blow on the scarf, warm it up, and put it on your eye? You ever had, how many of y'all had that happen? No unique experiences in life, guys. No unique experiences. How does, explain that to me. How, it felt better. Don't lie. It felt better. I don't know how to explain it scientifically, yo. But like, you know what? That's old folk wisdom, right? That's just, mashallah. We don't question it. We do it too now, right? Like, hey, come over here, pull off my topi, and like, let's go. I don't have a theory for it, but subhanallah, sometimes you trust, even if you don't understand. Okay, now, this also reminds us, if it's coming from the all-wise, keep your heart open to the wisdom of the Quran. This is very important. One is that the Quran will pour out its wisdom, and one is, do I have my cup turned upright to receive it? Do you understand? I think what's incredible about Ramadan is most of us in Ramadan come with our hearts open and our cups upright. So it's no wonder that in Ramadan, when the distractions are less, shaitan is locked up, our nafs is starving, that we're able to benefit so much from like seemingly simple advices or religious experiences. Like outside of Ramadan, you go for Jumu'ah, you see the masjid full, you're like, yeah, okay. In Ramadan, you show up and sometimes it moves you to tears just to see the devotion of the people there. And you're like, what? I see this in Jumu'ah, like this is not different. But the state of your heart is different. And so that's what, if this Quran is coming from Al-Hakim, keep your heart open to the wisdom of Al-Hakim in the Quran. Then Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ فَاعْبُدِ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينَ. Indeed, we've sent down the book to you, O Prophet, in truth. We've revealed this book to you, O Prophet, in truth. فَاعْبُدِ اللَّهَ. So worship Allah alone. مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينَ. Being sincerely devoted to Him. Now, one thing I want to note is at the very beginning, Allah Ta'ala says, indeed we have sent down. How many gods do we have? One. Why do we say we? Yeah.
I believe it's like a formal type of thing, right?
Yeah, it's called the royal we in grammar. You ever heard of it? Google it. The royal we. It's a way of speaking to sound grand. Now I say to sound grand for human beings. Allah truly is grand and majestic. Yeah.
I read this before somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it said that Allah's doing that because like he's using all of his names, like every single one of them. So probably that's what Allah means by.
That's beautiful. That's literally what's written in the tafsir. Qamar. Barakallah feek. Absolutely. I have it written right here. I was going to add that. No, seriously. Some of the scholars have said when Allah speaks of His actions, He will use the singular pronoun, I. I do this. I have done this. I have done that. But when He speaks about when He's speaking of His actions, He uses the plural pronoun, like this here. To send down is an action. Allah will say, we have sent down. Because it's not just that Allah sent it down, with all His names He sent it down. This is such a profound point. Let me give you an example. You know when Allah tests you, it's not just Allah testing you. It is Ar-Rahim testing you. It is Ar-Rahman testing you. It is Al-Latif testing you. It is Al-Wadud testing you. Do you understand that? The names of Allah, with all of His names. Because sometimes it's almost like it's just this empty fact that we state. Allah is testing me. Wait, who's Allah? What about all his names? And so some of the commentators have written that when Allah speaks about actions that he's done, he'll use the plural pronoun, not because there's more than one God, but to say that it's Allah with all his names. With all of his names. And that's a really profound point. Because sometimes we lose sight of that. Right? We're going through a difficulty, and all we can think is what? How could Allah do this to me? And we almost feel like, doesn't Allah see my pain? Doesn't he hear my cry? It's like, of course he does. He's As-Sami'. He's Al-Alim. Whilst he's putting you through all of this, it's with all of his names. And we're not meant to lose sight of that. Then Allah Ta'ala says, so worship Allah alone. When do we use so? I saw you, so I went home. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? What does so mean? Yeah. Cause and effect. Right? Although this is used in more of like a condition and then the consequence in a slightly different way, grammatically speaking. Because that would be called fa sababiyya, which is literally what you're talking about. This is called the fa al-fasiha. So, what is this saying? This is saying, we've revealed this book to you with truth. And since we've done that, the consequence should be that you should worship Allah alone. How does that help? What do you guys think? How does the fact that Allah revealed this Quran to you now drive you to go and worship Allah alone? Yeah.
If we look back at the Muslim times, there were a lot of Christians and Jews and all that stuff who received the book also, but they also associated their partners with Allah. So maybe in this context, he's talking about, he said down the truth one, but now you have to worship like Allah alone rather than associate partners with them.
I feel like your first point actually defeated what you're saying, because you're saying that the people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they received the book, yet they associated partners. Why would now the Muslims receiving the book, why would that lead them to not associate partners? It should lead them to worship Allah alone. What's the connection though? It cannot simply be that the revelation of the book is enough and people will now never associate partners, because history shows us otherwise. What do you think the relationship is though? For someone who understands that, yeah.
Is it because this one was, the first line of it was revealed in truth, whereas the rest of them were at that point changed? I mean,
Okay, so they have to recognize the truth of it, yeah?
it's a way to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He sent down the book, which is like the truth.
Right, beautiful, I love that. Let's talk about that. She said it's a way to be grateful. What are you grateful for with the Quran? How many of y'all have had your car break down? We won't judge you guys. Come on, hands up. Yeah? Did y'all call CAA or like somebody? Especially if you were like somewhere like far. Yeah. Now, subhanallah. We know when CAA shows up, how grateful are you? You're like thanking the, tow truck driver. You're like, thank you so much. At least my job, but like, thank you, Why are we so grateful? We were lost. Our car broke down. You ever been lost and asked someone for advice or guidance? Like, how do I get to someone's, and they told you the way. They saved you so much time because you walked in circles for an hour. Right? Because we don't ask for directions, right? Like, that's not what we do. It's not in the DNA. So we walk around in circles like, I'm going to find this. I want to figure this out. And eventually, what happens? People get fed up with us and like, we're asking for the directions. You don't want to ask for them, we'll ask for the directions. And how grateful are we? Thank you so much for saving us time, saving us energy, saving us the headache. We just get to our destination. Is that not what the Quran is for us? Without the Quran, how lost would we be? Without the Quran, how lost are we? Not would we even be, how lost are we? Isn't it incredible? And we're talking about every aspect of the Quran. One is the messaging of the Quran, how that guides us. But one is even just listening to the Quran. What does that do for your heart? What does that do for your relationship with Allah? Today was the day of Friday. to read Surah Al-Kahf, the chapter of the cave, to read that story, to read the Arabic, to receive the reward, protection from Dajjal, to read the translation and reflect on what is Allah telling me in the story of these, sleepers of the cave, as they're called. How's that relevant to my life? And that's where a daily ritual of gratitude is so important. Ya Allah, without you, without the Quran, I would be so lost. I would be so lost. And that's a real important message for those of us who, when we feel lost, what do I do? What do I do? Have you ever spoken to somebody who said when they were lost, they just went and opened the Quran? You ever talk to someone like that? That's what they do. They just go and open up the Quran and say, like, Allah, speak to me. Ya Allah, please speak to me. And somehow, I've spoken to multiple people about this, where they tell me, like, I was going through something, and I just went to the Quran. I said, Ya Allah, I don't know. Please guide me. Please show me the way forward. And I opened it, and subhanallah, like, the verse that I needed was right there. Fine, guys. In your context, or our context, let me not otherize this, let me include myself. For us, you're looking for a message, and you're just scrolling on Instagram or something, and you just come across that post, and it just speaks to you. And if you've never done that, just check the comment section. Thank you so much, I needed this. Right? Isn't that what it is? It's like, in that moment, it's the verse speaks to you. It's incredible. And you might say, well, Shaykh, that's not God, that's the algorithm. It's like, who created the algorithm? Let's not start that theological kind of, discussion here. No, but for real, to appreciate that Allah revealed this book for our guidance, if we feel lost, who are we to blame? It's to turn back to the book, and that's what we're doing. That's literally why we do this now. Allah doesn't say simply worship Allah. He then gives a description of your state when you worship Allah, sincerely devoted to Him. The word here is mukhlisan, which comes in the word sincerity in English, or devotion rather, in English, it means to sacrifice oneself. To go through hardships for something else. You're so devoted. Okay, Allah wants us to be devoted to Him in our worship. What does devotion mean to you in your relationships? You do want devotion from people, right? What does that mean? When you say you want devotion from someone, we're not talking like the spiritual, religious devotion, but I want loyalty. I want someone to be devoted to me. In marriage, we often talk about this. What does that mean? What does that mean to you as a human being? Yeah. Commitment. What does commitment mean? Effort. I think consistent effort, right? It's not even just like a one-time off, like a one-off. They put some effort in and then, holidays. No, commitment. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do it even if it kind of, I have to go through some hardship for it. Devoted. I have to sacrifice because I'm committed. Absolutely. What else do we have? Yeah.
I think it's consistent effort and honesty.
Consistent effort and honesty. Loyalty involves honesty. Beautiful. Why is that so important for devotion? Because what if someone's lying to you? Now, that's not devotion. Why? Because they could tell you the truth, but they choose not to. Usually they're covering up for someone else or for themselves. They're committed to themselves or to that person, not to you, because they're willing to lie to you and not give you that truth, right? So absolutely, it's a part of devotion. Anything else? Yeah. Go ahead. Putting in time. Okay, someone who's devoted will take out time. Not just put in time, but take out time, right? Not like the person who only, spends time with you when they have time, when they, at the end of the month when they're like, actually I have a few days off, let's hang out, and you're like, okay. No, but they could do something else and they say, I want to be with you. Let's go hang out. That's devotion because they're sacrificing their other options to be with you, to hang out with you, to give you time. Beautiful. How does that translate to our relationship with Allah? You keep coming back. Okay. And that's another form of commitment. You don't give up on it. You don't give up on that relationship. Beautiful. Yeah.
Even when you're busy, you make time to read
Absolutely. Even when you're busy. I think that's a key point. Even when we're busy, we're going to make time for Allah, the creator of time. Yeah, we're going to make time for the creator of time. You know, like the idea that I'm too busy for God. Busy doing what? With what? With everything that He gave you. How could you then turn on Him? Do you know what I'm saying? So, this is a really key point here. Because Allah is saying, worship Allah, but do it being devoted to Him. We just talked about what it means to us as human beings. Look, we're not the center of the universe, are we? The world does not revolve around us. We're just one human amongst how many billions of humans? So if someone doesn't give us as much time as we want, okay, like, you know what I mean? It can feel like the end of the world, but it's not. But we're talking about God here. The one who created us and gave us everything that we have. To now, not just worship Him when it's convenient, because that's not devotion, right? We said that. When someone who hangs out with you when it's convenient, that's not devotion. It's commitment. Even when you have something else to do, I'm going to sacrifice that. And I will make sure that I worship you. I will recite the Quran. I will pray. I'll tell the truth. I'll be honest. I'll show good character. Do you guys get what I'm saying? I'll eat halal. Like that's devotion. Does that make sense? That's besides just worship. Worship with devotion here. Now, you can understand why this is so important. What usually will take us away from being devoted to God? What do you guys find to be a challenge in being devoted to God? Yeah. Work. Okay. Yeah. Entertainment. Right. Anything else? School. Lack of humility. That's a powerful one. Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe when things are going well.
That's subhanallah. I love that. When things are going well. A false sense of security. And Allah speaks about this in the Quran. Many places. أَأَمِنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ? Do you feel safe from the one who controls the skies? Meaning like you feel good, like things are good. And then like an earthquake hits, God forbid. And that snaps people's attention back and like, wait, life is not so, it's not so guaranteed. Yeah, beautiful.
Social circles.
Social circles, the people that surround you, right? Absolutely. These are things. Now, we're meant to worship Allah alone. We're devoted to Him. When we abandon that and we prioritize something else, I'm not trying to call nobody no names here, but like, does that sound a little bit similar to the people in the time of the Prophet? Let's move to the next verse and read this verse. Let's see what Allah says. Allah Ta'ala says, indeed, sincere devotion is due only to Allah. Ala lillahi dinul khalis. As for those who take other lords besides Him, saying, hey, we worship them only so they may bring us closer to Allah, surely Allah will judge between all regarding what they differed about. Allah certainly does not guide whosoever persists in lying and disbelief. What did the people in the time of the Prophet do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? When they were told, worship Allah alone, what did they say? No, but I got my idols. I got these other things that I worship, that I prioritize in my life. Isn't that kind of what we do sometimes? I'm not questioning anybody's iman. Because we feel comfortable that we don't have physical idols in our lives. Some of the scholars say, but beware of idols that exist in your mind and in your heart. How? Because we prioritize them over God. We lack the sincerity, that devotion to Him. The word used at the beginning, Ala lillahi dinul khalis. Ikhlas, khalis. The root letters, kha, lam, and sad. You know what they mean? They mean to purify. The khulasa of something is like the summary. You've taken all the important core essential points, put them together. All the extra stuff, the fluff, you've removed it. Allah wants us to not only worship Him, but remove everything else from the equation. Does that make sense? That's the challenge. A lot of us, we can worship Allah, but then we have other things in there as well. Ikhlas is to remove those things that impurify our intention. Right? So it doesn't mean to do something for Allah, it means to do it for Allah alone. Now, we can talk about this inshallah next week. We'll stop here. We'll continue from this verse inshallah. This is a really important beginning to the chapter because this chapter will deal with this topic of sincerity over and over again inshallah. And so we want to make sure that we cover it thoroughly. We'll do that inshallah next Friday. All right, Jazakumullahu khairan to everybody for coming out. We will give adhan in about 2 minutes.